Welcome back. This is to the Polity. I'll be joined now by Program Coordinator, Transition Monitoring Group, Mr. Solomon Adoga. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, please let's just get your thoughts straight off. Observations about this election. What are your general thoughts?
Oh, well, a lot of disappointment generally. Not so much for the outcome. Yeah, well, the outcome, but especially the failure of the process for us and the space where I come from. Our concentration, our focus has always been to try to, strengthen the process. So all the things that we've done, the pre-election phase, have been towards strengthening the process to ensure that we have a free, fair, and credible election at the end of the day. But the outcome, have been very disappointing. They've, demoralized us seriously. But we understand that we need to pick up and keep going. So if we have a process in place, we expect that that process should be followed by the leaders, especially from quarters where promises and assurances had been given that the election was going to be process driven. So if at the end of the day you see glaring flouting of the process, which was supposed to guarantee us a credible election, then it becomes very disappointing at the end. So I must tell you, there's a feeling of disappointment. We feel that the law was not followed to the latter in terms of collation of results, in terms of transmission of results. And if you don't do that, then it defeats the purpose of the law, which is to ensure transparency in the process. So who are those seeing the results? We are all supposed to see these results. That is why we worked so hard to ensure that we have an electoral act that guaranteed us the possibility for transparency. And so if at the end of the day that transparency is not in the place, then like I said, we are very, very disappointed.
All right, let's talk about, you said the law, one of the makers of that law, the Senate President, is saying that, that's not how, we're misinterpreting it. And, it's starting to become a bit confusing because INEC themselves, just now, we've got, a hold of one of their old press releases. In that press release, there was an allegation that they were going to rig the elections by not transmitting results. And in that press release, they replied that it was categorically false and that INEC would do as it had done and transmit electronically. But now the comments rolling about from the Senate President, Festus Keyamo, the spokesman, is almost like we don't know what we heard. So I'm confused. What happened? Did we misunderstand? Were results not supposed to be transmitted from the polling units?
I think we've been taken for a ride, largely, and it's so sad to see that. It's very sad to see people at that level of power, in the country, coming out to make those kind of assertions. So you want to believe that probably I've had to read and read, the provisions around that, and then it feels like, am I lacking the ability to comprehend or what? Yes, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal practitioner, even though we've all been forced to become one in this very period. But I think that is very glaring, is very clear enough. So if the Senate President is saying that there is no provision for transmission of electronic transmission of results in the act, then he may need to explain to Nigerians what the provisions around Section 50 of the act implies, because it gives authority to INEC, it gives power to INEC to transmit results electronically. It did not state, yes, the provision of the law did not state that INEC must use, but it gives INEC the room, to develop the kind of or the manner in which it intends to transmit results electronically. And INEC had gone ahead to develop that manner, which is in the process of development of the IREF. So the results were supposed to be transmitted to the IREF. It was done in Ekiti, it was done in Osun, and we saw the efficacy of the process. So coming to the presidential election, we are not able to see that. Then it begs the question of why. And then all of a sudden, people in high places are beginning to tell us that what we are seeing is not what we should be seeing. I don't get it. So a lot of explanation, but I believe that at the end of the day, we'll be able to get judicial interpretation to some of those provisions.
Yeah, I think that is the question now. People are wondering how big an issue is this. It's about the law, but they're saying, could it be possible that it's something that is not such a big deal? Take, for instance, if it says that the results will be sent from the polling unit to IREV, and at the collation center, the results weren't even on IREV. I think as we speak, I'm not sure all the results are on IREV.
Not at all.
But we already have a president-elect.
Exactly.
So I wonder, do you think this is a big enough issue that could overturn the election?
It's a very big issue. You know, the overall amendment of the Electoral Act was one, to try to empower INEC, strengthen their independence, and then also try to ensure mechanisms were in place that ensure the transparency of the electoral process. And the provision for electronic transmission of results is one of those mechanisms. So it is there. It is there for us to use. So if you take a broader look, right, if you take a broader look at proceedings, so you look at the legislative elections, and you will see that we were, not so quick, but we were quicker to, get some of those results to the IREV portal, but not so much for the presidential election. And then you can ask yourself, you can do a mental scan of the credibility of the legislative elections, where incumbent governors were running, serving legislators were running, and a lot of them losing across parties, across states of the federation. So you put those kind of indices together and you see a level of credibility in that regard. So the system functions. It's not like the system had any issue. The system functions. It's just that some people bypassed it for selfish gains, for reasons that they may need to, at one point or the other, explain to Nigerians.
I think that's the issue here. I know I'm the journalist, and people might wonder how well I know my job, but I always have to ask, have you heard? I haven't, so that's why I have to always ask the question. All of this is happening, and I think the biggest issue is that people are wondering, how can this be happening in broad daylight? How can this be happening right before our eyes? It is expected that with the consistent reassurances that we kept getting, there will be transmission, even when lawmakers said it's not possible, INEC said we can do it again and again and again. I wonder, has INEC now said what happened? You said you would do this again and again, and then you haven't done it. But we are not saying why he didn't do it. And I wonder, as a monitoring group, I don't know, has INEC reached out to you and told you what happened? Because till as we speak, I'm the journalist here, but I don't know what happened. I've not heard they say, okay, we had glitches, we are fixing it. The results have been uploaded, but due to network, it's taking time. We don't hear anything. It's just silence.
Absolutely. So on E-Day, I think there was a press conference, one of those intermediary press conferences that they held, and he told us that there was a glitch in the system, and that was even a strange thing to see, because the beavers were functioning at the polling unit. The beavers requires internet connectivity to accredit voters, right? So, and we were trying to, because when polling began to end in polling units, you will expect that results should begin to be uploaded to the IREF immediately. And so, in line with our jobs, we are beginning to follow up immediately with the IREF portal, and we weren't seeing anything. So that was when the issue came out and people were talking about it, and the excuse for glitches came. So beavers were functioning, internet connectivity were working well, the IREF portal was not down, it was accessible. So where was the glitch? I think that people should not, because they have positions, take the whole country for granted. It doesn't make any sense. So, and since then there haven't been any explanation, even when the political party agents at the collation center, tried to halt the collation process, because clearly you are flouting a provision of the Electoral Act. So we needed to verify these results, where they were coming from. Otherwise, it was just like going back to the old order. There was nothing new about the 2023 election from the 2019. The euphoria that was created about how credible the election would be, about how free the election would be, and so much resources pumped into this process to make it a better one. It was not just an election for Africa, for Nigeria. It was an election for the entirety of Africa, because we are the largest population in Africa. We are the largest black population in the world. So if you see the kind of international communities that came into Nigeria to monitor that process, not just monitor it, the support was there. So they wanted to see how well we will organize that election, being that we had put everything needed in place to ensure that we had a credible election. But just by bypassing, provision of the law, by bypassing a mechanism that would have enshrined transparency in the process, look at where we are today. Today we have a president-elect, and it's unprecedented. I remember when General Muhammadu Buhari was elected, especially the first time, jubilation all over the country. In Abuja, I could not even move freely for about a week. Same thing in Lagos, same thing in Kano, almost every part of the country. But here we are, nothing. It's just like the country is mourning, which is sad to see.
Yes, it is a sad thing indeed. And something you pointed out, I think a lot of people forget, is that so much money, so much resources were pumped into one specific thing, making it a more transparent process, and it seems almost defeated at the end of the day. Well, I'd like to get now your recommendations. We've spoken about the coalition aspect. What about the actual elections and themselves? In some places we've heard reports of violence. In some places we heard about, oppression or suppression. And then interestingly, something that a lot of people are not talking about, the persons with disabilities have said that they rate the process almost next to nothing in terms of how much inclusion they had. So I'd like to get your recommendations moving forward. Come March 11, what are the things that should change in terms of both the holding of the elections and collation to results?
So a lot of things comes into making an election a credible election, and it starts from the voting process. The voting process includes your setup, early arrival of polling officials, and all of that. In this election, we observed pockets of late arrival of polling officials across the country, and then at the end you have people voting late into the night, and what that will lead to is that a lot of people will get tired and leave, and it is not far from the reason why we have a very low turnout for this election. So we must try to address those logistic issues. I'm not even too bothered about the logistic issues, because you can expect some of those things to occur because of demographic arrangement and all of that. So you can expect some of those hiccups to happen. But when it comes to processes that are there to ensure transparency, you cannot so glaringly flag those provisions. So we must ensure that we apply the technology to its full capability in the March 11th gubernatorial and state houses of assembly election. Because as it is at the moment, I don't even know what, because you get the feelers from citizens, they are discouraged. So you don't even know what participation will look like. You don't even know what the voter turnout will look like. I want to ensure as much as possible that people turn. You cannot have, that patrism of people deciding the fate of a country of over 200 million people. It does not speak to legitimacy. you know. So we must, you know, try to sort out those logistic issues, be in the polling units as early as possible. We must ensure that we apply the technologies that govern the election to its full you know, capability. And from our part, all we've been doing since the end of the presidential election is to try to see how we can motivate citizens to come out en masse, because the gubernatorial elections are even more important in my opinion. The state governors have not been really focused on, and at the state level they are the most powerful, they are the most important, and so citizens at that level must focus on electing governors that will serve their states well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Solomon, for coming, for shedding more light on the elections, and I hope your recommendations are taken. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. That's all we'll take on the program for today. Do join us tomorrow. The Polity holds every 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. on Kaftan TV Channel 124 Star Times. I will have more discussions as the next elections, the next set of elections are set to hold about 8 days from now. I will add to the advocacy that you already heard. Do go out there. Don't be deterred. You still can make a difference come March 11. Go out there. Have your vote, have your say, have your way, and hopefully together we can make Nigeria great again. Have a nice day. I am Ahmad Inobari.